Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain and bring you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, we're going to be breaking the glass in case of emergency because of the 7th Hokage Naruto, despite being sealed away, actually has a possibility of coming back stronger when unsealed. But like I did with the Sasuke video earlier that covered a similar topic, I want to put my bias completely up front. I want it disclosed. I personally don't see Naruto coming back from not being top 10 in the Boruto verse right now to suddenly being strong enough that he can walk up to Jura, slap the book that he's reading out of his hand with one hand, and then with this other hand, have a Rasengan, shove it into Jura's face, shouting, "Rasengan, respect me." However, as we do here on the channel, even when I personally don't agree with a topic, I'm not above giving it a platform to discuss with you guys, and for this one, I have to concede that there is some hope out there if you are someone who held on to all those Naruto Uzumaki stocks after Kurama went smoke in the Berryamo fight. So what exactly is there to hope for if you are a fan of Naruto Uzumaki? What is the possibility for Naruto to get even stronger, even though he's currently sealed away in that Daikokuden dimension, a dimension where time doesn't flow? Naruto is just floating there, unable to move. He's finally got free time with Hinata and the guy can't even enjoy it. He can't eat, he can't age. So how does he get stronger? Well, the answer ironically lies in the meaning behind the Daikokuden dimension itself and the inspirations for it. Naruto Uzumaki returning at some point in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex stronger than before, despite being sealed away in the Daikokuden where time doesn't flow, is a fascinating idea that has a strong narrative and, most importantly, mythological precedent that can be used for it. To explain how this happens, we have to examine the following things, so just stick with me for a second. Daikokuden's potential connection to Buddhist and Shinto mythology, parallels to Minato's power increase after escaping the Reaper Death Seal, other mythological stories that mirror Naruto's situation, which there are some there. And you also have to look at how Naruto's own nature could allow for an unconventional plot provided power boost. So let's start with Daikokuden's mythological significance and the potential power implications. So the name Daikokuden is derived from Mahakala, a Buddhist deity whose origins trace back to Hinduism deity named Shiva. He is often depicted as a god of time, darkness, destruction, and transformation. And he has significant ties to the concepts of power, transcendence, and rebirth. You should definitely be keying in on transcendence and rebirth because those were themes that you saw in Naruto's manga and in Boruto. Key aspects of Daikokuden that relate to Naruto are going to be as follows: time distortion and transcendence. In Hindu Buddhist traditions, Mahakala is often said to exist beyond time, just like how Naruto is in the Daikokuden dimension that happens to function in the same way in Boruto where time is frozen. Rather than being a limitation in the Buddhist stories, this is often referred to as a state of meditation, purification, or transformation before emerging even stronger. You have stored potential and hidden power. Daikokuden is often linked to treasures and hidden wealth, which could symbolically represent Naruto's latent power growing in secret despite being sealed away. Destruction and rebirth is also there. Mahakala destroys illusions and paves way for new creation. Naruto could undergo a form of death in Daikokuden only to re-emerge transformed or with divine power, much like how Buddhist deities undergo a symbolic destruction before rebirth. So this is not Naruto literally dying. To the world, he is viewed as being dead to the world. There's the death connection there. Everyone thinks he's dead. He's going to come out the Daikokuden suddenly reborn. Daikokuden is not just a prison for Naruto, but it's also a frozen-like state where his power, it could be refined for a future transformation when you start connecting those dots there. There's a reason why everyone was believed to think that Naruto is dead, and he happened to be sealed away in a dimension that deals with death and rebirth and existing beyond time. Then when you get into Minato's strength increase after escaping the Reaper Death Seal, it's also there as well, like father, like son. Minato's return in the Fourth Great Ninja War provides a direct precedent for Naruto getting stronger despite being sealed away. When Minato was revived as an Edo Tensei, he had Kurama's Yin half, something that he didn't have in life when he was born with it until Minato sealed the Yin half into his body when he was about to die. This made him return stronger than he did when he died, despite being trapped in the Reaper Death God's stomach. So that's a different situation, but that does serve as a precedent that under different circumstances, albeit, somebody did get stronger after quote unquote dying, which everyone thinks that Naruto's quote dead. A parallel can be drawn between the Reaper Death Seal and the Daikokuden. So both are sealed dimensions that are linked to deities. Video will be coming next month, part of that channel rebrand during the first 14 days, where we take a very extensive deep dive into the Reaper Death God, because there's a lot of stuff there beyond just how the jutsu works, and you'll want to revisit this video when that video goes up, because again, there's some Daikokuden connections to the Reaper Death God. Both exist outside the flow of normal time. Both should, in theory, keep a person's strength static when you think about it. Yet, Minato returned stronger, suggesting that under the right circumstances and conditions, power can be gained even when in a form of stasis. Again, Minato, when he got sealed away into the Reaper Death God, he had Kurama's power. But notice when he came out, it wasn't like he just magically popped out and had to learn how to tame Kurama's power. He already knew how to do it, which means that at some point while being sealed away, Minato mastered that power. Other mythological precedents for growth while being in a form of stasis are going to be with several Buddhist and Shinto myths that describe gods or enlightening beings entering into states of suspended time or isolation before being transformed and returning transformed. Key examples being Susanoo's exile and return in Shinto mythology. So the storm god Susanoo was exiled from heaven by Amaterasu. In his exile, he wandered, he faced trials, and he ultimately grew stronger. When he returned, he defeated Yamada no Orochi, obtaining the legendary sword Kusanagi. The parallel to Naruto is that Naruto, like Susanoo, is exiled from the world. He could emerge from Daikokuden with a new power, similar to how Susanoo got the Kusanagi in order to help defeat Jiraiya and the other enemies. Again, I don't think Naruto's going to be the one that walks up and says, Rasengan, respect me, bitch. That's not going to happen. But the idea of him playing a support role like his father, that could be the case there. Also, when you get into Buddhism with the Bodhisattvas and the enlightenment stasis that you have, that's also there. So some Bodhisattvas who are considered to be enlightened beings, they enter into meditative states for what seemed like an eternity, but when they emerge, they have ascended in power. The most famous example is Buddha himself, who sat under a Bodhi tree in deep meditation before reaching enlightenment. The parallel to Naruto is that while Naruto does seem to the naked eye to be inactive in Daikokuden, his body and chakra might be undergoing a form of spiritual or chakra evolution akin to a meditative transcendence. Naruto might not be able to physically move. That does not mean that the brain itself might not still be working. If the brain itself is still working and functioning, but Naruto's body isn't moving, again, basically in what is essentially a coma, but the brain is still active, you do run the opportunity that the one thing that Naruto's always been weakest at, yin related stuff, Naruto might be forced to be very, very good at meditation. And even before he was sealed away, he was really good at it because he increased his sage mode, which requires meditation. How Naruto could return stronger, there are other possible explanations that go beyond this. Now that we've established that there are some mythological and religious support ideas for increasing power, even while being in a suspended state, here are going to be a few possible in-universe explanations for Naruto's rise to power. So Daikokuden's divine nature awakens a new power potentially. If Daikokuden is truly linked to a higher Buddhist Shinto force, like it's been implied based on how it's been used, then being trapped within it could lead to Naruto to tap into a divine form of chakra or a lost ability or lost abilities. Otsutsuki powers are linked to divine and celestial energies, and Naruto just happens to be sealed away into a dimension that is made up of the chakra of celestial energies because it's Ishiki's dimension that Kawaki's using. Since Daikokuden is Ishiki's ability, it could have hidden properties that Naruto could unknowingly absorb while inside. That goes back to potential of, are the brainwaves working even though Naruto himself can't move his body? This could awaken a new Sage mode that surpasses everything we've seen before. Perhaps something even akin to Ashura's power. And by Ashura, I don't necessarily mean the Sage of Six Paths son Ashura. I mean the Ashura deities who are bad guys in Shintoism. You could flip that on the head and have something closer to a mix of both of those. Hagoromo's son Ashura, who had a more interesting divine state of power, as well as the Ashura deities. Then when you get into Naruto's chakra, it could be refining itself in isolation. So one thing you can look at is that Naruto's chakra might be undergoing self-purification, which if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you've heard me say multiple times. One of the things that we see with how Naruto characters are written is that at some point there is a form of self-purification going on depending on where a character is in their character arc. So you have the potential for natural energy accumulation. Since time is frozen, Naruto could, based on his high level of experience with Sage mode, be able to absorb undiluted natural energy that exists in that realm where time itself does not end up flowing. That just largely requires whether or not Naruto's brainwaves are working. This could lead to a new level of Sage mode. You also, most importantly, and I hate this idea, but most importantly, Kurama's chakra remnants. So while Kurama is dead and you have anime original content where Sakura is scanning Naruto's body, which that never happened in the manga. So for all intents and purposes, as Nakano, the former editor for Boruto, said, you treat the anime and manga like two separate continuities, following the same story, parallel stories, but they're two separate continuities. So the anime is 100% canon basically, but the manga is its own thing and the anime is its own thing. But getting back to it, while Kurama is quote dead, traces of his Yang chakra could still exist inside of Naruto, and in this timeless space, his body could slowly be reconstructing it, which explains why Himawari, and I want you to clip this. This explains why Himawari in chapter 1 was able to state she felt that her father might still be alive, but she couldn't understand why. It might have been her sensing a small kernel left behind from Kurama's chakra inside of Naruto, a kernel so small that nobody knew it was there, just as nobody knew Himawari had a small kernel. That would explain why she was able to sense him, because there was a connection there, and at the time she had no idea that she had Kurama's chakra. So again, it makes sense to an extent if you take that approach. Again, I hate the idea, but just because I hate something doesn't mean I can't give credit where credit's due. You also have Hagoromo's power reactivation. So if Naruto does have that kernel left behind, then that means that there are also latent remnants of Sage of Six Paths mode, or Six Path Sage mode, depending on which translation you use, which was given to him by Hagoromo on top of Naruto having the 9 Biju chakra, which gives him Six Paths power, a different power, but being inside of Daikokuden might reawaken it once more, assuming that there is a reformation of a small amount of Kurama's chakra via a kernel left behind, again so small that it couldn't be detected, but because of the stories associated with Daikokuden and Mahakala and the whole concept of time and rebirth and destruction, etc., you could theoretically say that that kernel is getting bigger as time passes on, which could lead to a reactivation of said power. Just, again, a fragment of it, but that would make him stronger than he was when he was sealed away. Naruto could also merge with the treasures of Daikokuden. So obviously, they're not literal treasures inside of Kawaki's dimension. However, allow me to explain what I mean by this. So in mythology, Daikokuden, I guess I shouldn't say mythology because that is that is Buddhism, so that is a religion, but Daikokuden is associated with stored treasures. Ishiki used it more for more powerful weapons, in particular to store powerful weapons and summon them out of it. That's where he's like got all those chakra rods and he summons them in the chakra cubes and etc. So what if over time Naruto emerges from Daikokuden itself? Could he potentially gain a new ability from having been in there? It's very similar to how we've seen transcendence of power in Naruto's manga, so there is something there to that. Naruto could also unlock a new form of senjutsu, basically. We know that Naruto's Sage Mode bypasses Ten Tails' durability. If Naruto's body has been constantly exposed to potential nature energy in Daikokuden, even if he's not actively gathering it, if he's been exposed to nature energy in an otsutsuki dimension, there might have been an unconscious development. Again, it goes back to whether or not Naruto, his brain waves are even functioning at this point. That would be something that allows him to fight higher tier otsutsuki all over again. In conclusion, to restate, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this, Naruto could return as a divine warrior. A mythological precedent has been there to suggest that being trapped outside of time can lead to transcendence rather than stagnation, which, again, you could argue is the case here. Minato's case also proves that one can return stronger from divine imprisonment. Naruto, like Susanoo and Buddha, may unknowingly be undergoing transformation while in that Daikokuden. His chakra, his Sage Mode, and potentially remnants of Kurama via a kernel, a small kernel, or 6-path Sage Mode, they could be evolving. Again, they could be linked together. Kurama is the key to the Biju chakra stored inside of Naruto. Without Kurama, he can't access it. Without Kurama, he can't even access 6-path Sage Mode. So there is something there. Himawari being described as having a kernel was not done by mistake. When he does return, he may awaken from a form beyond anything that he had before. Maybe not on the same level, but he could potentially have a true Ashura-like transformation or a true god tier senjutsu form. In short, Naruto could emerge akin to being a reborn warrior monk, returning to help restore balance in a world that is being overrun by god tier level threats. Again, I'm not a fan of this, but like I did with the Sasuke video, there is something there. I'm not selling copium here. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out more videos from Naruto Explained by clicking here on the left, or check out these videos from my Anime Explained channel where I talk about non-Naruto content in the form of video essays, chapter reviews, explained videos, and so much more.